available to students 24/7, so that students can access from wherever they are, do the tasks that they're required to do. This time of the year, because our college is actually closed for summer holidays, and our technologists are involved in preparing systems for the new coming academic year, doing updates and those kind of software tasks. So I just go back there. Some of the other things that my colleagues will also do then is working with our academic colleagues to do training, skills development, professional development with our academic colleagues, so that they know how to use the tools, that they can problem solve the tools, and that they can engage with students in large classes, in small classes, in near and far. Other work that we do engages academic or administrative staff in supporting them. So not only do we work with academic departments, but the administrative departments, the people who collate exam results and things like that, those are people we also work in association with. And as you've heard from what I've said about the designers, a big part of our work is designing and developing new programs or revising existing programs to make sure that they're current, that they're up to date, and that they're appropriate to the programs of study. A new area where we're working and we are starting, because we've just moved into a new building, is to develop media. So like the e-learning centre here that you have at KNUST, we are developing some audio and some video studios so that members of the academic staff can go and record and prepare materials in advance that can be accessed by students for learning purposes. Some of the tools that we work with will be a little bit familiar to you, I think. We work with Moodle. Now, I don't think that you use the word Moodle here at KNUST. I think you call it Class, is that correct? Yes? Okay. For us, we just call it Moodle. That's the name that came with it. But I like the name V-Class, Virtual Class. It makes good sense. That's our core e-learning platform. In association with that, we work with Microsoft. I think here you work with Google, if I'm correct. You use Google platform, Google Classroom. We work with Microsoft Office. It's used right across our campus for email and other services. And I think you use Zoom for classes. We use Microsoft Teams because it comes as part of Microsoft Office. This one I think every student loves. Is it the same in Ghana as it is in Ireland? Nobody likes Turnitin? No, nobody likes Turnitin. Yes. We use Turnitin also for exactly the same purpose, for originality checking. This is a really important part of academic practice and academic experience. And it's important for all of our students and for our academic staff to ensure that their work is original, that they have captured any places where they may have forgotten to include a quote correctly, and to make sure that everything is correctly cited. We use a system called UJA, which is a media management platform. I'm not sure if you have something similar, but I'm sure there are similar facilities that you use here at KNUST. We think about UJA as being a little bit like MIC's YouTube video platform. Our academic colleagues can put video, can put audio, they can put PDF materials on that platform and share them so that they're accessible to students. And with the platform as well, they can make videos interactive. You know those videos where you watch something and you're asked questions after 5 minutes about it? That type of activity we can use through Egypt. Mahara is something as well. I haven't done a lot of deep digging here to see if you have an e-portfolio platform, but Mahara is an e-portfolio platform that we use. What is an e-portfolio? Can anybody give me a definition for an e-portfolio? An electronic portfolio. Okay. What an electronic portfolio is, it's a space, like a scrapbook, where you can keep a record of your professional development. Let's say I am a teacher who is preparing to teach and to go into a classroom. I want to prepare my class in advance so I can add it to my portfolio and I have it there as a record for the observers who will come in or for the teacher who will come in. And I have it there for exam purposes if I wish to have it. After the class is finished, I might want to sit down and have a reflection. Did I teach well? Did I communicate well with the students in the class? I can write my reflections in there. I can add any of the materials that I used in there. So a portfolio is quite a useful thing because it allows you to keep a record of the work that you've been doing. And I'll talk a little bit more about portfolios, particularly as I understand the majority of you here today are undergraduate students. And you're looking towards your futures. So Mahara is there for that purpose. And the final thing that we use is OneNote. So this is, I think there's a tool called Google Notes, is that correct? Yes. So Google Notes is a flexible note-taking tool where you can keep lecture notes if you want, you can attach pictures, it's kind of flexible, not like Microsoft Word, just goes in straight lines. So OneNote is also another tool that we support, again, partly for portfolios and that type of work. So remember we mentioned Moodle a while ago. This is what the sign into our Moodle looks like. I pulled this up because I thought it gave you a chance to see what Limerick also looks like. So that's a view of Limerick City, which appears on our sign in. Now, I was going to use a little bit of digital interactivity, but connectivity has let me down. And here, I was going to ask you to pop questions you had for me about what I'm talking about into a question and answer space. I won't be able to show it on screen, so we'll not use that. But we do have some space for questions and answers at the end, so I will be here on the floor and happy to answer any questions. So e-learning, let's get down to some of the nuts and bolts. I think everybody is quite familiar with what e-learning is. But let's have a quick look at the definition that I think is quite a useful one. That it's a way of learning that can provide education and training using ICT to people who are both near and far, regardless of time or space. So anybody, anytime, in any place can access it. If I were to ask you for one or two criticisms of the definition, would anybody have a criticism of what I've got on screen? Yeah? Feel free to shout out. It's very quiet. This is familiar. I'm used to this in Irish lecture halls too. A criticism I would say of this is that a criticism of this, I would say, is that it expects a lot of the technology that everybody has. It expects everybody to have a laptop, it expects everybody to have a mobile phone, it expects everybody to have a good internet connection. That's a very tall order. But at the same time, e-learning is still very important in the world in which we live. It's being used more and more by educational institutions, as you know, and it's being used more and more by professional bodies for the purposes of training and for development. If you work, for example, in healthcare or in medicine, e-learning is critical to ensure that your skills stay up to date. And I suppose the focus that I want to look at in relation to e-learning is that this, as the Dean said earlier on, this is the future of professionalism. This is the future that I am living, that you are all going to be living. So it's critical, I suppose, that we look at some of the features related to e-learning and where it's going and what to pay attention to. I think I'm a little bit far away from mine.
Yes.
So why e-learning? They can only bring so much input. It's very difficult to present video, for example, practical experience. It's very difficult to bring in charts or views of maps of regions, of geographic features. It's very difficult to bring in, for example, if we're looking at healthcare, physiology examples that can be used. And the advantage here is that resources can often be made available online in a very flexible way. It can use static material as well. But one of the things that I will be talking on Friday when I meet some of the academic staff is that it's great to do a lot of reading, but how much of the material is interactive? Would you agree? Yeah, I see a few nods in the audience. It helps because it's easier to learn. Now the reading is still important and it can still be there, but the interactivity is important too. A critical thing, and if I have a chance to address it, I will. Skills that you need in the 21st century are very digital. They're very flexible. There's a wide range of skills that probably traditional employment didn't require, but now are required. So being familiar with e-learning, the tools and the technologies that go with it is critical for your future work, because employers, or you if you go into business, will require these skills in order to be successful in your work. And not only just for today, but keeping on top of those skills and keeping the development of those skills up. The Dean also mentioned the importance of inclusion and accessibility. And as you may have experienced here, and as I was hoping to demonstrate by being able to capture today, accessibility is important, and e-learning gives us a platform to do this. As I stand here, we have 30 minutes together. You can listen to me for 30 minutes, but once the session is finished, there is no other recording of the session. Whereas when it's available on e-learning, you can play it back, you can pause it, you can read the captions, you can slow it down, you can take definitions out, you can get a lot more out of it that way. Because you have time to work with e-learning as well, it is a great way for your professors and academic staff to present problems to you. And I'm sure they do that. We all love group projects, don't we? Yes. They're hard work. But why are they hard work? They're hard work because they get us to collaborate, they get us to talk to each other, they get us to think and argue and fight and disagree and solve problems and produce a piece of work. And we've done a lot of things in that space. We've solved problems, we've learned in the process. It's easy to disagree, but I tell you, when you get into the world of work, you realize how much work is actually done working with people. So here it is important. As I said, it's workplace preparation, it's scalable, and this is something that is critically important because it means, for example, that a university like this or any university can stretch it beyond. But I was very interested last night. There was an event, there was the, I can't remember the title of that, there was a quiz in the Great Hall last night. Was anybody here at that? Yes, I know each of the faculties was represented. One of the tasks that the students were asked from each of the faculties to do was to prepare a program for delivery in a school with restricted internet and access resources, and how that could be scaled up at a national or even international level. And the students were given 15 minutes to do this. Now, I thought that was quite a challenge, but they did a good job at that, and I was mightily impressed. So scalability, the ability to push beyond the limited boundaries of the four walls that we have here, is important. And then, of course, there are obviously cost and sustainability issues. The cost side, yes, we sometimes think, yes, universities save money by doing this, and maybe there is some truth in it. But on the other side, if I think about the number of hours that are spent sometimes just travelling to be in a place to attend a particular lecture, if we think about the sustainability considerations that are there are costs that are also incurred that sometimes are not taken into account. On another dimension, potentially by scaling things up, you can make it more affordable. So that was it. Tech Smart Test last night. So those are some of my thoughts, and I'm going to skip the next question because I was going to ask you broadly about 21st century skills. And I would like to have had your feedback on what you thought they were, but I did a little bit of preparation beforehand. And I built this word cloud. And you can see some things that you recognize very quickly. But when I built the word cloud out of things that were important for students to have, or anybody preparing for the workplace, you see how much skills and literacy came out as being big issues or big items in here. What we have, some of the expected, there's nothing here very unusual, but these are the things that each one of us is expected to have when we go into the workplace. Innovation too is important, and artificial intelligence is a new one that has recently been added to the list as that's becoming more and more important. So in the 21st century skills list, these are the things that employers are expecting you to have when you come out of university. And they're the kind of things that you will expect if you go out to become an entrepreneur and to work for yourself as well. You have to have all of these things if you're going to be the entrepreneur and be successful. Ultimately, it leads into lifelong learning. So the skills that you develop here and the time that you spend here at university developing these basic skills will help you on a path of lifelong learning. Learning doesn't stop after adolescence. Learning goes on through all of our lives, right up to the end. And I think an important aspect, and you probably got a hint of it earlier on from me, was that lifelong learning is good. But the second quote that I have up there is about reflection. You can do the learning, but make sure you do the reflection. You have to think about, what did I learn? Why did I learn it? Why was it useful? What was the purpose of it? How can I use that again? And then it can be more useful to you. So we take lifelong learning, critical skills. We're embracing technology. That's what we're talking about today. And I'm saying, do not leave university without having embraced technology. Make yourself a commitment to developing your skills over your time here in university, over any postgraduate study that you do, and over your working career. Make sure that you make networks and that you connect with people. Now, networks can be digital networks. We all know from social media that this is possible. But physical, personal networks is also important, and connecting with people. It is a concern that I have, and I think everybody in this room knows that when you engage in a program that is largely digital, you feel that you're on your own, you feel that you're quite isolated, and you feel you're removed. A good program will always have a structure of communication and contact for you. So watch out for those things, because those connections are important. In developing your skills, you need to balance between, do I need to be a generalist, or do I need to be very specific? The great thing about an undergraduate degree is that it is a good, solid general degree. And this is the opportunity for you to build your basic skills. As you progress, you will specialize, but you sometimes have to be careful not to specialize too much. It can become very difficult if you are very specialized. And the bottom one comes from an American psychologist called Carol Dweck. It's the concept of the growth mindset, and I'm sure some of you have come across this. There are several ways we can describe this. This is being open to the idea of growing and developing yourself. But the critical thing is being open to development. As I said a few minutes ago, it's not about just finishing your education and saying, I have got the hat on my head, that's it, my education's finished. It doesn't work like that in the modern world. Okay, so I've got 5 minutes more. I'm glad somebody else is watching the time because I forgot to watch the time for myself. Concerns and considerations. I'm going to raise some red flags. Because in a lifelong learning situation, there are a number of things you need to watch out for and be careful of. Here in the university environment, you have the safety of knowing that KNUST provides the services, provides the learning, and you know who your lecturers, your professors, your deans are. Once you step outside of this space, it's important that you know and you critically assess the platforms that you use for your own learning. Facebook or Twitter or X or whatever is great for information, but would we really rely on them to learn? I would say probably not. So always make sure that you look for accredited institutions behind any programs that you take on. Did you check who the professors are? Did you check who the instructors are? What are their credentials? What are the relevant experiences? What reviews have there been offered? If the reviews are not there, I think it's time to ask yourself some questions. When you're in any program of study, and I'm sure your professors have already said this to you, question everything. Where did the information come from? Can I cross-check it? Is it reliable? Every time I go in a sheet, and it can be easily generated, but can they be relied on? Is there somebody behind them who has put thought and effort into it, or is it just a computer that has generated these? There are a few sources out there. I just mentioned two. Google Scholar is always a good place to start, and I'm sure you're familiar with that. One that I also use is the Directory of Open Access Journals, DOAJ. The reason I go there is because they're open access. They're designed to be publicly accessible. They're not behind paywalls. If you're thinking about a certification that comes from something, there are plenty of colleges of this and that out there that will give you a certificate, but will the certificate be recognized? Always check. Make sure that it has validity and purpose, especially if it's international and it's difficult to check. If it's an easy course to do, what's the expression? Is there such thing as a free lunch? Yeah? Is that familiar? Yeah. Ask yourself questions about that too. Use your tools purposefully. A student I met once in Estonia told me a very interesting thing. He said, I go to 7 lectures, and my 7 lecturers use 7 different ways of communicating with me. They use about 9 or 10 different tools for us to submit assignments, and so on. He said, if I worked in a workplace, I'd have one boss, not 7 bosses. And I would have one boss expecting one way of doing things, not 15, 16 different ways of doing things. And for your own sake, and for your own benefit, I would say choose the tools that work for you. Find 1 or 2 tools out there. I have mentioned, for example, things like Evernote or Microsoft OneNote, Notion. We mentioned Google Notes. Find something where you can gather your information, keep it, and use it from there. And be comfortable with it. Don't use a whole lot of different tools because you lose your information. And this sometimes happens. How many people has this happened to? Nobody. Oh, okay, there's a few people around the edges. Yeah, I think this has happened to us all at one stage or another, and then suddenly everything is gone. So what am I going to say here? I'm going to say keep your data safe, but also manage your time as far as programs are concerned. It's very easy to lose sense of direction when you're doing self-learning programs. So make sure that you focus very carefully on regulating your time as much as you use it. Your well-being ultimately is very important, so make sure that you mind yourself if you're taking a course just by yourself. You don't have that disadvantage here in the university because you have plenty of people to reach out to. But when you go beyond the boundaries here, you can find yourself isolated very quickly. Use the networks, as I said, get to know your colleagues who are on that course, and find out what supports are available. I'm going to jump through a couple of these other things, and I'm just going to finish up on this particular one. Your learning is important to a mobile phone there a few minutes ago. So keep your work secure. Keep it. That's an important decision for yourself. If you get to doing a master's thesis or a postgraduate, a doctoral thesis, and you discover 6 weeks, or you're about to submit that all your work is gone because your hard disk has blown up. That's devastating. Don't let yourself get into that situation. If there's one thing I would say, keep safe. Thank you all very much for your time. I will be happy to answer questions at the end.
Thank you, As and we are going to take your questions and then they will answer them respectively. We'll be moving to the second speaker. And the second speaker is an associate professor at the University of British Columbia in the Department of Geography, Okaga. Okay, please, sorry, we are taking the third speaker instead. So we'll allow him to do the presentation and then we'll receive the second speaker at the last one. Thank you. Okay, please. The second speaker, he is an international relations officer at Mary Immaculate College, MIC, in Ireland. He's going to be speaking on international exchange and collaboration initiative for students and staffs. So please let us pay attention and then take lessons from it and then prepare our questions. After the section, you will be getting the opportunity to ask your questions as well. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Everyone getting on okay there? Good, good. So just to get started, I would like to thank a couple of people for the warm welcoming that we have had so far here. So a big thank you. And before I say that, I have to apologize in advance in case I pronounce any name incorrectly. So please stick with me there. So I would like to thank Professor Charles Marfo, Provost of the College of Humanities and Social Sciences, and also the Dean of Faculty of Social Science, Professor Kabila Abbasis. Again, apologies. No? That's really bad, isn't it? Oh my, okay. So let's just stick to the Dean of Faculty of Social Science. But thank you so much for the warm welcoming. And of course, I would like to thank Professor Prince Aji. Yeah, Usu Waji, okay. All right. Head of the Department of Geography and Rural Development. Thank you for the invitation to this summit. So my name is Giovanni. I'm the Latin America. I work with international relations in Marinette College. And I'm now serving as the Latin American Programs Manager. And one might wonder what the Latin American Programs Manager is doing here, but there is a good rationale for that. And the thing is, I've been working with Latin America for a while. I'm Brazilian myself. And after some conversations with our Director of International Office, we realized that there were similarities and things that we could cross in between Africa and Latin America and Europe to create some sort of network when it comes to partnerships. So here I am now. Thanks to the invitation from your department. Okay, so what this session will cover is an brief introduction to Ireland and MIC, introduction to our international office, international collaborations and exchange, some brief examples of what we have been doing in the world, just to give ideas of things that we could collaborate as well here in Ghana. I'll talk about our history with Africa and then jump into our history so far with Ghana, specifically with your university. And finally talk about opportunities for international collaboration and exchange, looking ahead, looking at the future. Okay, so talking about Ireland, so population, very, very tiny, about 5 million people. When it comes to language, English is the language mostly spoken, but of course, one of the languages there, the official language, also the Irish language, the Gaelic, not as spoken as English, of course. Long tradition with education, currency is euro. Again, very, very tiny, loads of innovation, research, and technology going on in Ireland as well. When it comes to prosperity index, we have ranked quite high in many, many areas. I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but I'm happy to talk about it with anyone later. John has already said a little bit. This is where we are on the map, the West Coast, very, very close to the international airport, Shannon International Airport, and 2.5 hours from the capital, Dublin City as well. Again, we are based in Limerick, which is a very, very safe city, very much a student city. We have over 100,000 people there, but I'd say 30% of the population over that's going to be just students. Very, very lively because of that. When it comes to Mary I, my institution is a university-level college of education and arts. So it's a small institution completely focused on education and liberal arts, and we work with the University of Limerick. So it's a college that is part of the University of Limerick. We have our own institution, our own campus and administration, but of course our degrees are issued by the University of Limerick. It's a leading college of education in Ireland, so we graduate about 40% of the teachers in Ireland, and it has always been at the forefront of curriculum change and policy making in Ireland as well, and strong advocates of equal rights. I just want to acknowledge the amazing work that our team does in the international office. Again, for a small institution like Mary Immaculate College, we have a big team, and that's because all about internationalization, all about taking opportunities to create more and more opportunities for our students to go abroad, for our staff to go abroad, but also to welcome staff and students from all over the world and really contribute to the culture, the fabric culture of the university. So this is just like we have 10 people, each one focusing on different areas. So if any of you ever decide to come to Mary I, you're probably going to deal with some of us, if not with all of us at the same time. So what do we do in Mary Immaculate College? We do a lot of stuff there. So we work with incoming international and EU students. So for a semester abroad. So if you are coming from the EU, for example, we welcome you to do a semester with us, but also with partner universities from all over the globe. Also for a semester when we have partnerships that is also doable. We work with our own students going abroad. We have some specific programs with some universities or government agencies in the world. So the St. John's University is a program in which we welcome students from America, from New York. They spend 3 months in Paris, 3 months in Rome, and then 3 months with us in Limerick. I know, lovely, and they absolutely love it. They normally say because they think, okay, so we have Paris here, we have Rome, what am I doing in Limerick? You're really literally having a break from the buzz of big cities. Okay, so we work with international governmental agencies to create bespoke programs like Brazil and Mexico. The CAPS program, for example, we welcome every year 30 teachers, 30 public teachers from Brazil all over the country to spend a full year with us for capacity building. And we also manage and organize short-term programs, including an MIC accredited summer program and BIPs, which are blended intensive programs, including focus on English language and literature. Of course, we welcome international delegations to MIC. We host a study abroad, an Africa Day yearly. We work with inbound and outbound mobility for staff, and it can be academic staff, professional service staff as well. Visiting international and EU staff, and again, international travel for our own staff to engage with partners all over the world. So here's some examples of the work we do. We're welcoming 100 student teachers from Mexico for just 2 or 3 weeks to work on inclusive education. That was a partnership between the Mexican government and the Irish embassy. And then this is an example of the Brazilian teachers that I mentioned earlier there. This is another program we participated in, which is the Teachers Making a Difference, when the Irish government also funds Every year, 6 Ugandan teachers to come over to Ireland. This year we hosted 12, and I'm going to talk about it a bit later as well. Again, examples of teachers or professionals from other areas coming to Mary I for professional development from all over the world. And here's some pictures of students when they come to Mary I. The international office usually organizes trips. Depending on your area, we try to bring you to schools to visit or to, let's say, companies as well if you're focusing on a certain area, but also cultural activities like visiting beautiful areas of Ireland and activities with other students as well. And also pictures of our students from Mary I going abroad, Austria, Budapest, and Denmark. Okay, our history with Africa so far. So Sub-Saharan Africa specifically, we have teachers making a difference, the one that I just mentioned now. So again, that program is sponsored by the Irish Embassy in Uganda. It recognizes excellency, exceptional creativity when it comes to teachers working in Uganda under challenging situations and environments. It was hosted in 2022 by MIC. And we had 12 teachers. Usually it's a program for 6 teachers, but because of COVID, we had 12 teachers back then. Oh, I suppose this is just apologies. Okay, and during the time they were with us, it was a study visit, which included some lecturing hours or exchange of sharing of knowledge with our staff, but also visiting schools across the country. When it comes to Erasmus, that's where things started getting more solid when it comes to our partnerships in Africa. Excuse me. Okay, so far we have partnerships with Ghana, Lesotho, Malawi, Nigeria, South Sudan, Tanzania, Uganda, and Zambia. Some partnerships are stronger than others, and at this point, Ghana, Malawi, and Tanzania are our strongest partners in Sub-Saharan Africa. Here is the Africa Day, another activity that we started in 2022. It was an idea of 3 PhD students back then, and they partnered with the International Office and also the EDII Office, which is Equality, Diversity, Interculturalism, and Inclusion. There we go. I always forget one of those I's. It is to celebrate, the purpose of this event yearly is to celebrate African culture and research of African students at MIC, but also to celebrate African contribution to Irish life and education in general. Now, focusing specifically on our work here in Ghana and specifically with your university. So the initial link was in 2022. It was a seed funding by our RGSO, Research Graduate School Office. Dr. Julian Bloomer, he was introduced to Professor Prince and Dr. David for the Department of Geography and Rural Development. That was done by Dixon. Let's keep it like Dixon. And who was an alumni from your university, and then he was our PhD student. From that work, so Professor Prince and Dr. Bloomer, they decided to apply for the Erasmus opportunities. So they applied for it in 2022. They were successful with the application. So from that work back then, we had 3 staff traveling from your university to Mary I in September 2024. We had 2 students from your university, PhD students, hosted by us in the spring semester 2025. 3 MIC staff members have traveled to visit your university so far. One was Dr. Bloomer himself, and now Tom and I. And 2 PhD students from MIC as well, Evans and Dixon, came over. Those are Ghanaian PhD students who were already in MIC and took this opportunity to come over to Ghana to do field work for comparative studies in MIC. So they would spend 5 to 6 months here and then go back to MIC to conclude their PhD research. Now, in 2023, we applied again for more work with the department, and then we were successful again. So for this case, for 2023, we only managed to get for 2 staff each way. So far, what has been decided is that in the autumn of 2025, Dr. Enoch is going to visit Professor Paul Applin, our professor, and then we are planning to also send Professor Applin over here by July 2026. Recently, 2025 application, we got the news already, so it was positive, we were successful once again, and this is for the Department of Geography and Rural Development, again with Dr. Bloomer working on it, and we got 3 staff outgoing, so coming from Mary I to come visit you guys, and 2 staff from here to go to Mary I, and then 2 students each way as well to be decided between Dr. Bloomer and your Department of Geography. One that our students have been already selected, again, 2 students from here, from Ghana, who are coming to do some field work, spend about 6 months, and then return to Ireland. Okay, it's just like an idea of the kind of projects we have been developing in Mary I. So we have here 4, time. So we have 4 PhD research in the Global South, an investigation of non-Western perspectives and their application in delivering sustainability by Augustus, who hopefully will be visiting you soon. And he's an Irish Research Council postgraduate scholar now. And climate change and coastal communities, vulnerability, adaptation, and resilience.